Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 9 of the LeanTossup College Football Podcast. I am here, as always, with my co-host at BuckMetrics here. We're here live in part 1, where we're going to recap what happened last week, give a couple of kind of thoughts about a couple of games for next week, and then in part 2, we're going to talk about our doozies, our two deep dives, and then a lot of our picks for next week. So, how are you doing tonight, Buck?
I am great. I am happy as always to be co-hosting the sharpest college football podcast. It's good to be back. For those who follow me on Twitter probably figured out I was out of the country last week. Also, for those who follow me on Twitter, thank you for not robbing my house while I was out of the country last week. But it is great to be back.
Yeah, always great when people on Twitter do not do not conduct a felony. That's always a positive thing. But yeah, welcome back, and yeah, we're happy to have you back. So a quick note, actually, I will be off on vacation in a couple of weeks. Not yet, don't worry. But don't worry, it's been timed so that I'll be back before Thanksgiving. Obviously, the most important games of the year. So don't worry about that. I'm only gone for a couple weeks. Again, I finally get vacation from my job, so I'm taking that. But we're going to see how we're going to do that, if I'm going to be recording from afar or not. So we'll have to see. But yeah, stay tuned for updates about that. So, part 1, the dashboards. What just happened? What does it mean? Last week, bit of a weird week in terms of college football. Some things happened that we called what one thing specifically happened that we called a mile away. But some other kind of interesting things happened last week. So what happened last week?
Yeah, well, first of all, an update on the special announcement that I had last week. I was listening to a college football pod from The Athletic today, and they actually, not unlike what I did when I used my 25th Amendment powers for an embargo on specific content, this episode actually said you can't say the name of the school that is in the same state as the Cyclones. So, once again, being the sharpest college football podcast, we are ahead of everybody else. It's good to see that common sense is taking hold across the college football universe.
That's actually so funny because, again, like, sitting here, like, I mean, obviously, to be fair, we did harp on them a lot, and I mean, they deserve every second of it. But like, it's so funny because it's like, oh man, it's so easy to make a joke about them, and it's just like, yeah, you know what? It's got other podcasts are like, okay, you know what? It's enough beating up on them. We should do it. But the thing is, to be fair though, and I think we'll talk a bit about this more though. Like, they actually played a relatively important game last week that, again, outside of them, has important implications for the rest of college football and the rest of the
Yes.
season. So we're all, I think that and we kind of talked about this beforehand. Although we're not going to talk about, obviously, the funny thing about Iowa, we're going to talk specifically in that context of that game about Iowa's defense versus Ohio State's offense. That's it. We're not going to say anything that happened on the other end of the ball, although a lot of really funny things happened there too. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk exclusively about Iowa's defense versus Ohio State's offense. I think that's the best thing to talk about in terms of that.
You're pushing against legal precedent here, pal. I'll caution you now, okay? Okay. Catching up on just the observations we had before last week's games and how they turned out. Cincy was -4 at SMU. I said, is this market not sold on the Cincy team? Does the line stink? Actually, the line was pretty close. Cincy just won by 2 on a failed 2-point conversion with under a minute left or so. Um, SMU has just incredibly, could we say they're just a bad luck team or just like a secretly good resume team? They've got probably a really good series of losses in that they've lost to a couple of Power Fives, one of them still undefeated in TCU. You know, they take one loss and probably one of the very best G5 teams to literally the last moment. Um, I think SMU is I hate to use this, but they're like the best 3 and 4 team in the nation, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, you never know, really. Sometimes stuff like that happens, right? So yeah, this team, I feel like it's just been so up and down, right? Like, they've been like down against like Maryland. They lost against Maryland. They lost against
They had that one really bad game against UCF.
yeah,
It
they
just
had a
got away
really
from them.
bad game against UCF. So they've been up and down, but like it's such a weird team. I think like SMU, like I don't think the play was bad. Like I did do Cincy -3. I don't feel like it was a bad play. Like again, it was a missed 2-point conversion with like seconds left. But again, the thing is, they had to score a touchdown for that to happen too, right? So again, that's that last kind. It wasn't like they were in a dominant position that entire game, right? So like I agree with with the fact that 'cause, like this team has had like some like again they played Maryland, they played TCU. TCU, a better team. Maryland, a decent team, but not a bad team. But they lost against both of those by about 7 each time. I think
Yeah.
TCU was 8. Bad game against UCF. Crushed Navy, but again, you're supposed to. Well, they only beat Navy by like 6, which that's actually they didn't cover the spread. Then they did lose to Cincinnati, but it's such a weird season where like you can massively underperform against UCF, massively underperform against Navy, but then almost beat Cincy, which is it's
Yeah.
such a weird combination of things. But yeah, I just a weird year for SMU.
Yeah. Not really a what you would expect on a week one or a year one from Rhett Lashley either. This looks like, it's not like they're trying to figure it out. It's like they know that they're good. They've just kind of had some weird circumstances. Other thing about this game is that Cincinnati, I was wrong about them preseason. They lost a lot on defense coming into the season. I thought they were going to be good, but more on offense. Their offense is pretty average, but their defense is actually, I've got them rated a plus 10.0 points, which is fifth in all of FBS, not just G5. So this really, nobody is saying that Fickle is not a good coach, but when you do this in a rebuilding year for your defense and you're basically number 5 ahead of most of the Power 5, um, Fickle really moves up another notch for me with this season. He shouldn't have been this good this season.
Hmm. Yeah, it's crazy that Cincinnati has rebuilt, right? I mean, week one we bet against them against, or sorry, not yeah, no week one. Yeah, not week 0, week one. We bet against them against. We bet on
It's
Arkansas minus
at
7.
Arkansas, yeah.
Yeah, and they covered that. Or no, I think I got the 6.5. I think they won by exactly 7. I got a 6.5, so we got the win. But the thing was, it was like Arkansas was dominant in that game, and we thought, oh, maybe Cincinnati's pretty good, but Arkansas just fallen off a cliff. Like
Yeah.
they were so good before, but they've just really struggled the last couple of weeks. And again, now maybe that makes Cincinnati look a little worse too. But I do kind of think SMU is like secretly not bad. So we'll talk more about Cincy's game this week. We'll have to see.
Yep. Okay. Also in the American, when I saw Tulane open 7 and with a minus 7 hosting Memphis and a total of 60.5, I was kind of confused. I thought that total was high. I was wondering if the market was overly sold on the Memphis offense, not really sold on Tulane defense, and interestingly, Tulane covers, but the total went over. So I think even though Memphis is having a rough year, that offense is still good. They have a problem stopping anybody. They're kind of having the season I thought USC was going to have this season. Where they're just if you can't they can't outscore anyone, they're in trouble.
Hmm. Yeah, just again an odd kind of game. Tulane is a good team, but just not like an amazing team. I think they've had some weird games. Like they were able to shut down Kansas State, but then you have Memphis put up 28 points. It's just a weird team that Tulane, the Green Wave, but a decent team though. But
The best logo in all of college football, though. That wave,
definitely,
the angry wave, is just next level.
it is the best. Yeah.
We had an interesting discussion about how literally no outcome of Texas at Oklahoma State would surprise us, and you were saying, if it gets to too much, maybe you'll bet on Oklahoma State. Of course, I talked you out of that, and that was the play to do. But I also said, hey, if the line gets too far away from us, maybe the play is Oklahoma State plus the
The money
money.
line, yeah.
And of course, neither of us did that. So great idea and crappy execution.
Well, yeah. So instead of the money line, I instead opted for Quinn Ewers over 2.5 passing touchdowns, which in the first half looked great. He had 2 in the first half, and I'm like, this is good. And it's like, okay, well, they are only up like I think 7 or 10 going into the second half. I'm like, okay, well, they're definitely going to need at least one more score, and Quinn Ewers probably throws another touchdown pass. But then they just decided they were just going to kick a bunch of field goals. So I got screwed out of that one. So that was a bit painful. But I was not gonna. I was definitely not touching anything like any sort of like Texas money line or spread in that game. Not a chance.
No.
and I think that was, I mean, outside of betting Oklahoma State, that was the right angle to take. Like definitely, like I have not bet Texas spread at all this year. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I no I've not bet a single Texas spread, but I've still made money off them by betting on like props, like when Ewers over or whatever, right? So yeah, it's just such a fascinating. It's again, I think we're gonna talk more about Texas later, but just such a weird, again, another weird team that is definitely underperforming expectations, especially when this team is so good. Like, yeah,
All right. Just to be clear, are you making the controversial statement that a Sark team fell apart in the second half? Just to
I
get you on
know.
the record now.
Yeah, controversial. I know. Hey, there's no precedent of it. If there's only, that's never happened in the last 12 months. It has not happened. Uh,
Yeah, definitely out of character.
yeah,
Stay tuned to part two if you want a good conversation about that. In the MAC, I had mentioned that Ball State, it could be sneaky horrible, especially with their bad quarterback. And they did me a solid by losing to Eastern Michigan, who's been really having a tough season. And the sneaky bad quarterback, John Paddock, he's number 11 on the bum list. Had a bum list quality performance with a QB plus of 39 against Eastern Michigan. It's not like he was playing a Power Five team.
you're not playing Georgia there.
That's yeah, that's saying something. Um, in the ACC, what I tagged as my BBMI opening line, Duke getting double digits at Miami. I just said market's missing both sides of this equation, and Duke won pretty handily in that one.
Miami was never covering the spread in this game. Like literally at no point in the game where they ever. Now obviously they lost by like I think 21 points. So like they obviously lost the game, but like they were never covering that plus 10. Like, and that's like we've been on Miami all this time, and like like we keep making money by betting against Miami. It's like I think probably my most profitable move all season has just been betting against Miami every week. Just spread money line anti Miami, and it's been working. Like it's so crazy how, like, and again, you see this at the same time. You go across the country, the other end of the country, and you see Mario Cristobal's former team looking so amazing
Yeah,
with Bo Nix, the guy who like
you know.
we thought was like the literal embodiment of chaos. We're like, he's looking amazing. Like we saw how he looked in Auburn and those crazy plays where he does something crazy and then immediately throws interception. Like we saw those plays and and then he's turning into like this amazing quarterback, and it's crazy how much he's turned. Not even just in the offseason, since game one, Oregon's turned it around since the first game uh against uh against Georgia. Like it's just it's so insane how we're seeing like Miami, and again I keep saying this every week, but it literally every week becomes even crazier. How the difference between Miami and Oregon now every week it just becomes deeper and deeper. It's insane, absolutely insane.
Yeah, maybe I've been wrong this whole time because I've been saying literally for over a month that Miami needs an intervention where a group of former players goes to Mario and says, "Cut it out. Just be a head coach. Stop screwing around and screwing up all your assistants." Maybe the plan all along was just to. It's a very long, long con where they just said, "You know what? We'll get in Mario. He'll recruit. Then we'll fire him in 5 years. And then we'll bring in Dan Lanning or another hot assistant, and then we'll actually be good."
Yeah, I mean it's so like, I mean that's an insane pitch, right? But apparently but like how do they? I don't think they give him 5 years.
He's got. You know what? He's got the long contract. I don't think he's got the 10-year deal, but he's got a long contract, and I think he's going to have a longer leash than most because he is a native son. But yeah, his contract's going to be kind of like where Texas A&M is with Jimbo, where he could just say, "No, I like what I do. You don't like it, pay me out the whatever it is,
I mean, there becomes a point in time when like you have to start worrying about being caught for something with cause, right? Like
Yeah.
there like how much money is Texas A&M spending on basically just spying on Jimbo Fisher, just making sure everything's completely on above board and fine, like because like right because like that could literally like if you're whatever cost for like a private like that money is cheap like that money is like insane ROI if they find something, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, but like, yeah, no, I don't, like, again, I think there's a point when these guys would be gone. Jimbo Fisher has a bit of a longer leash, but again, he's not locked in forever. Like, he can be fired eventually, right? Like next year, potentially, you could fire Jimbo. Crystal Ball's gonna have a couple more years. I think by year 4, if he hasn't turned this around by year 4, he's gone in year 4. I don't think he's getting to a year 5, but we'll see.
Yeah, the one thing I'm kind of curious about too is we've talked about this a little bit, and I'm still undecided. I'm I think you and I are undecided between the two of us too for an official podcast position. I'm I'm kind of the mind that if Texas A&M paid like whatever it is, like $80 million to buy out Jimbo, I still think that scares away a lot of candidates because I think, yeah, you would get a good big buyout, but if a school is crazy enough to spend that much to get rid of a coach that has a winning record, I think there's going to be just a lot of people that would just say, nah, there's just something that's not right there.
Well, and I'm actually thinking about this too because we entered this era relatively recently, maybe within the last couple of years, of these massive big money contracts, right? You've got Jimbo in there, Mario Cristobal, Mel Tucker. You've got these guys. Now, obviously, Nick Saban technically falls in that category, but definitely not the category of bad. But
Yeah.
you've got this category of deals that we're looking at now. And again, there's a ton of other ones too littered around there that have been basically bought out now. Like I think the one from Ed Orgeron from Louisiana, he was a big buyout too. Like all these ones, we entered this era so quickly of like, okay, you've got to find your guy, and if he does one good year, you got to lock him down before someone else steals him.
Hmm.
And we're kind of in the same era now with NIL, right? Where there's money, and again, to be fair, a lot of this is rumor based in terms of how much these guys are paying, like how much these kids are getting paid, right? We don't actually know, like. There's a lot of it that's under the table, right? So we don't know exactly how much. And there's numbers that have been thrown out, like $1 million for starting quarterback, whatever. Like it's a little high, maybe about right for some of these ones, but that's a really big number though. But where these big numbers are being thrown around, and I think like, and I saw someone at one point said like, and it was probably an athletic article that said like, there's gonna be it's kind of like with the stock market, right? Eventually the bubble's gonna burst, and it's
Hmm.
gonna take Miami sitting there buying out Mario Cristobal for $90 million, or Jimbo Fisher being bought out for 90. Like it's gonna take a couple of these schools to cut massive checks for other schools to be like, okay, like smarten up here. We can't do this. Like we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna give some guy who had one good year this massive extension just because we were afraid of him going off. Like it's gonna take we're getting to a point now, and again, we're getting that way for quarterbacks. Like it's going to only take like a one bust quarterback, or maybe a couple of them, until people realize like, okay, this was a bat. We're not going to do this anymore. And I think we're getting to a point where like, and again, obviously there's inflation adjusted into there too. But what's the next crop of salaries for head coaches going to be next year? Is it going to be higher or lower? In nominal terms, probably higher, but like we might start seeing those creep down a little lower as people are like, we're not going to bet the house on some random guy now because we don't want to be stuck in the same position as like A&M with Jimbo Fisher, or Miami. Like those are going to be the poster child for what not to do, and there's going to be a lot of like, we're not doing that because of Mario Cristobal, because of Jimbo Fisher, right? So
Yeah, I think there's going to be a big divide between the absolute top coaches and then the ones that still have to prove it. Because Mario won a couple of, I think probably two or three conference titles, but it was clear that he wasn't of that top level. Although maybe not clear enough to
well,
everyone.
yeah. To be fair, Jimbo, I think did they win I
He
think
has the
they
national title at
he does
Florida
have a national
State.
title. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well then, okay, Mel Tucker will be the poster child for it then.
Yeah, he
It,
just missed it with his 5-7 season in Colorado.
Yeah, just missed it. No, I mean this is the thing. So maybe Mel Tucker will be the poster child for that going. Like, but there's gonna be a time when people are gonna be like, we don't want to pull a Mario Cristobal or a Mel Tucker or
Hmm.
like once there's enough of these examples lying around and people learn from this, you're not gonna see this anymore.
Yeah, agree. All right, back to the week that was. Last observation I talked about last week was one of the most consequential coaching moves coming into the season was Lane Kiffin hiring Maurice Crum as his defensive coordinator, and somehow LSU ends up um, ends the game at LSU on a 42-3 run against Ole Miss. So I think all the goodwill just kind of disintegrated in about a half of football there as far as Maurice Crum in Oxford, Mississippi.
I mean, the thing of it was, I can't remember who said this on Twitter. I think it was Fornelli. I think he said that Ole Miss was the biggest frauds who've ever frauded, and like that is actually so true. Like this team was so like, and I mean, I had a rant about this a couple weeks ago when I'm like, they've literally not been tested by literally anybody, and
Yeah,
sure enough. Right, like I mean, they played. Let's look through the schedule here. Let's go back to this before they played LSU. They played Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Tulsa, Kentucky, a Kentucky team that I think they're currently ranked now or not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're ranked now. At the time, they were ranked seventh. Um,
no, they're not seventh now. I can
they're
tell you
not
that for
definitely not.
sure.
They're 19th now. Okay, so they are technically a top 25 team, but that's definitely skeptic. I'm definitely still skeptical of them. Then they beat Vanderbilt. Then they beat Auburn, and then they lost to LSU pretty badly. They lost by 25 to LSU. And then next up is A&M, then Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi State. So the schedule gets a bit tougher, but
Yeah,
they probably beat Texas A&M. Maybe they even beat Arkansas. I don't know. But like we saw this last year with this Ole Miss team. This Ole Miss team was good until they played actual good teams, right? Like they were good until they played Alabama. Alabama crushed them. And this is the thing, right? So and Matt Corral went to Carolina, and again that entire Carolina thing is a dumpster fire. But he got injured in the preseason. We haven't seen him much this year, so we haven't actually seen him at all. 'Cause I think he tore his ACL in the preseason, in like the second game of the preseason. But no, it's just this team was so fraudulent, and it was very easy to see it was fraudulent. I didn't touch this at all. I wasn't the highest on LSU. I actually am relatively high on LSU. This team is like sneakily good now. Actually, I believe they're ranked now, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, they
Um,
popped up way in the polls.
yeah, they're 18th now. They're 6-2, so we're gonna see them in December. Yeah, I was about to say they're gonna go bowling, but they go bowling in December. So we're gonna see them in a bowl. Alabama in a couple of weeks, actually next week, not this week, next week. Then Arkansas, UAB, Texas A&M. They could go like 3-1 in that. Probably can't upset Alabama. If they could upset Alabama, that'd be amazing. But this LSU team with Brian Kelly is like sneakily good. And again, this is year one for Brian Kelly and what was supposed to be a rebuilding year. And I don't even know who their quarterback is, or like not particular.
Jaden Daniels, the
Oh,
guy
Jane
from
Daniels. That's right. Yeah, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Not bad, but again, not. I'm assuming not Brian Kelly's first pick. So, like, you give Brian Kelly a quarterback, and again, this was kind of the whole theory of him getting out of Notre Dame, right? Hey, we don't have to recruit academically anymore. Okay, so
Hmm.
we can get whoever we want now. Yeah, maybe he could be. Maybe this could be a really good team in the SEC next year, and maybe the year after, if they can get a quarterback. So, watch out for this team. This team is like sneakily good. So,
Yeah, Daniels has at least one more season. He has a COVID season under his belt too, so he might have two if he wants to stay. And I can't see him going to the NFL. Although I don't know, who knows? He gets bad advice, and he might. LSU is 6-2, and I think their season win total was 6.5. So I don't think anybody saw them being 6-2 at this juncture. And they are not that far from being 7-1. Remember, they are basically a blocked extra point away from going to overtime in that opener
yeah,
against a decent Florida State team that finds ways to lose games.
and their only other loss was to Tennessee, which looks
Yeah,
better by the day, right? So,
yeah, no, that's a pretty solid resume, especially for year one.
mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to basically stories that we learned from last week's results. Ohio State wins 54-10. I'm thinking Ohio State might have the best defense we've ever seen. They gave up they gave up 158 yards. This is their defensive drive chart. This is amazing. Interception, punt, fumble, downs, field goal, punt, interception, punt, fumble, interception, downs, punt, downs, fumble, punt. You don't play better defense than that.
That
End of
that's
conversation.
that's pretty good. Again, remember the only other 7 points were on offense. It was Ohio State's a pick six. Uh, it was actually funny at one point in this game because I actually did bet Ohio State spread, and this was when because on offense Ohio State kept scoring field goals, and I was like, I think it was like at this point it was 19-10, and I'm like, it's going to be really hard for Ohio State to keep covering the spread if if they keep kicking field goals. And I'm like, well, I mean, if they score a couple touchdowns, and then you get the desperation pick six. The next play was the pick six. Literally, the next play was the pick six, and just amazing. But no, I mean, one thing I will say though about this Ohio State team is this was like, although obviously you won by 44, like shakily a not good performance by Ohio State. CJ Stroud looked not amazing at times. And I think when we talk, it's like, so a lot of people basically during this game, I was looking online and for Heisman odds, and I actually saw live in this game. Basically, CJ Stroud and Hendon Hooker were tied in the middle of this game for odds to win the Heisman. Now, this is before the second half, and I considered betting on Hooker to win the Heisman, but then I realized that the better play at that point was to bet Bryce Young number one overall pick. Because the thing of it is, NFL, and again, it was an overreaction. Both lines are back to where they were now. I think functionally, I think Hendon Hooker's is a little lower now, but both lines are functionally where they were before the week started. And the thing of it is, at this point, like when NFL owners, well, not owners, well, owners, yes, and scouts and head coaches, if you're in the market for a quarterback, so if you're the Houston Texans, if you're the, I'm Houston, maybe not, but if you're the Detroit Lions, if you're the Carolina Panthers, and you've got that number one overall pick, and you're looking at tape. I mean, the thing is, Bryce Young has never really had a bad, like, there's been a couple of weird kind of games, but there's been a lot of, like, good games where he's played good defenses and been good. There is now one game, actually a couple games now, where CJ Stroud has played a good defense. Michigan last year, Iowa this year, and he has not looked good,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that is a concern. And I kind of do like Bryce Young as the number one overall pick. Another reason I potentially like Bryce Young as the number one overall pick is because the Lions have now moved into top spot for the number one overall pick. A little sad about that. I thought this could be a bit of a breakout year for them. But um, the thing of it is they drafted one of Alabama's wide receivers last year. So they have Jamison Williams now. So theoretically, you might want
Mm.
to reunite Jamison Williams and Bryce Young. So that's an underappreciated angle to keep in mind. But no, I like. I'm going to talk more about this in terms of Heisman odds and C.J. Stroud, but it is a little concerning. And again, we're going to see this week because Ohio State is playing Penn State, which is another legitimate defense. I have concerns about what happens when this Ohio State team plays an actual defense. And this isn't the first time we've had this concern. We had this concern a couple times last year when they played Michigan in the in on basically on Thanksgiving weekend in the rivalry game. We've seen this a couple times. This isn't the first time they've had problems. Now again, they figured it out in the second half, went crazy, got a bunch of passing touchdowns. Great, he actually covered his over passing touchdowns. But again, that really sluggish opening like half start, that's a concern for not just CJ Stroud but for this Ohio State team. So that's something I'm keeping my eye on as well.
Yeah. Fair point. A couple of other games in the Big Ten. Penn State 42, Minnesota 17. I'm thinking that even though they've had some injuries, maybe the Gophers are not quite as good as we thought. They've lost their last three games, 91-41, and Rutgers 24, Indiana 17. Bringing this up because 16 punts definitely featured in this game, 8 for each team. For reference, UCLA has 12 punts for the entire season.
Punting is winning. Uh, no, I mean, so one thing about Minnesota is, yeah, I'm really kind of out on this Minnesota team. I really don't like. We really like them, and like Penn State is not a particularly good team, and this was potentially also a look ahead spot for Penn State too, going to Ohio State next week, or actually hosting Ohio State next week. and you're telling me that they can only put up 17 points and they let 42 in, like you let Sean Clifford put 42 against you? Like, come on. Like, what is
Yeah,
this? Um, Rutgers, surprisingly, my model did like Rutgers in this game. I know it's crazy. Um, but like this Rutgers team is secretly not, well, they're still pretty bad, but like not they're better than bad teams. They're like a cut above the bad teams. And like
yeah,
Indiana is a bad team. And I think, yeah, maybe this Rutgers team is not is maybe not horrible. I mean, this team did almost beat Nebraska like 2 weeks ago, so
they should have. Yeah,
they probably should have beat Nebraska.
yeah. Um, Team a little better than Rutgers, Alabama
Mhm.
30, Mississippi State 6. I bring this up because this is just going to be my one of my what do we say, my pet peeves or my causes or raison d'etre. Um, I saw a tweet that said Mississippi State, and this is from a good account that I like, but my gosh, Mississippi State plus 21.5 is interesting with the news that Alabama will be without its top three interior defensive linemen and top two backups at inside linebacker. Once again, kids, if you don't know what exactly is behind the injured person, don't play based on injury news. End of sermon.
No, and this is such a big deal, right? Because in the NFL, the backup behind X lineman is well known. Like we know who that guy is.
Yep.
There's tape back on him for 10 years. You have literally no idea. And again, I mean, literally Nick Saban is the only person who actually, I mean, and whoever the offensive line coordinator is, they know who that person is. You have no idea. You have no idea where that is. That some guy who they're using as a backup somewhere. Maybe that kid was like a 5-star recruit out of some high school, so like in the like you have no idea who that kid is, right? And this is the thing, that kid could be sitting on the bench right now because that guy's starting, and next year is going to be his year, and then he'll
Mm-hmm.
start getting draft buzz, right? So, yeah, you have no idea who any of these kids are. So, no, and that's the thing. I will say though that like I thought like the score line is a bit interesting to me. The Mississippi State 6, that's not interesting. Honestly, I kind of expected Mississippi State to get crushed defensively. They did that. 6 was that like the last play of the game, so it was that. But the one thing I kind of find really interesting is Alabama 30. I thought that would be a lot higher because to be fair, the spread was 21. Alabama only won by 24, so not particularly a dominant performance. Like they just kind of stopped scoring at a certain point. So I thought they may have poured it on more, but at a certain point you might just be like, we're done, right? We don't need to do any more, right? We're done, right? If they can't score anything, then why are we going to keep scoring too, right? So
Yeah, and I just one last thing on this game as an under better, the total was 60.5. I had the under on this. This might be the game, this and Duke Miami were probably the two that I wish I had been able to see overseas. Being that far under without ever being in doubt is just the best feeling in the world.
yeah.
Especially if Alabama's got its A game on defense, you know that you're in for a good day. Speaking of teams that are going to go under a lot, Clemson 27, Syracuse 21. Clemson's quarterbacks were both lousy. Their quarterbacking is just, I'm sorry, man, it's garbage. I don't see how a team. I'm kind of, even though I bet it's not looking great, I bet them to win less than 10 games this season. Part of me wants Clemson to make the playoff. Their team quarterback plus is 101, which basically means they're average for all of FBS. Um, I- Clemson could really be stepping into the role if they make the playoff of just the Alabama, Oklahoma role of just getting, just dump trucked in a playoff game. I'm kind of actually hoping for that to happen now.
Well, see, I actually kind of like. I don't want that because we have so many other good teams, right? Like Michigan's actually not a bad team.
Hmm.
I worry that I worry that what's gonna happen is Ohio State beats Michigan or Michigan beats Ohio State in the last game, one or the other. I don't know which one it would be. But then Clemson gets in ahead of that Ohio State team. And again, you have because this is another one in an extremely long line of games of Clemson not covering the spread and barely winning, right? This is what happened to them against Wake Forest. This is, I mean, they did cover against Florida State, but that looked shaky at times. This is a long line of games of Clemson barely covering the spread. Like, here's the thing. You're like, oh, they beat Syracuse. That's good. The spread was 14 and a half. They won by 6. And again, that was kind of lucky that they won by that 6 because Syracuse just kind of
Yeah.
gave up. And like, cause like, well, they didn't give up per se, but like they just kind of stopped scoring. Like they had a ton of turnovers. And the best part was, I watched this game live, so I was able to see it. They literally had a there people complained about officiating that didn't really matter too much, but at one point they swapped out DJ and put in Clint Kubiak. And basically then after the game when they won the game, so he basically he did create a bit of a spark to win after the game. They went up to Dabo and they said, is there, I mean, you were trailing in this game, you put this kid in and you won now. Is there a quarterback controversy here in Clemson? And Dabo's like, nope, DJ's our guy. We just needed a spark today. Sometimes you just need a bit of a spark, and we pulled our guy and we gave our team the spark to win. I'm like, what? How is it that the backup is needed to provide a spark when you're like, that makes zero sense at all.
Yeah.
That's insane, by the way. Like, again, the spread was 14.5. You barely won by 6. So again, this Clemson team keeps scraping through, and it's gonna be really sad if like we see Clemson in the top 4 rather than like a Tennessee that loses to a Georgia in a conference play. Again, if Georgia beats Tennessee, they go to the SEC championship game. Again, craziness can happen there. If whoever, like the loser of Ohio State Michigan should probably be in the top 4 as well. Like, it's going to be so sad. Or like, again, what happens if we have undefeated Clemson and one loss Oregon or one loss USC, right? Or
Hmm.
one loss UCLA? Like, who's going to be the like, if we see an undefeated Clemson over a very deserving, I'd say, one loss Oregon, that's a travesty, right? So, or again, what about TCU? So, like, no, I want this Clemson team to lose. The problem is we're running out of runway really
Yeah, we
soon for
are.
that. Like, we're like the the win total might be a done deal at this point.
Hmm.
Um, like the one saving grace on that is they will have the ACC championship game. They have Notre Dame next. They have Notre Dame next week. They're off this week. They have Notre Dame, uh, Louisville, not particularly great Miami. I mean, that might be the first spread Miami covers in a while.
I'm impressed you're going through this without laughing.
And then
Let's see if you can continue it. Yeah.
South Carolina. So
Okay. And take a
maybe,
look at who's in the other division. Who's going to come out of the other division for the ACC title game?
is it divisions or
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you a hint. You know what's not dead, hilariously, is that stupid North Carolina ticket I have to win the ACC.
oh
There might
wow,
actually be
yeah.
some oxygen in that room.
Oh, that's right. Wake Forest is in the same division. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Ah, that would have been the shot.
Yeah.
Come on, Mac Brown. You could do this one thing, Mac Brown.
Yes.
Come on, Mac Brown. You got this.
So I wasn't ignoring you. I was on my phone looking up, and the first college football playoff rankings are released this upcoming a week from today.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to be curious where they have Clemson, just
Yeah.
because I think this team it's a half team, and it's a half team in a pretty crappy conference. You know, they're pretty clearly fourth. They're not close to the Big 12, which is third in my rankings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Also in the ACC, Duke 45, Miami 21. We talked about this. I just want Miami fans to be patient, hang in there, because once Mario gets his kind of recruits in place, he'll have Miami where Texas is now. 5-3 and underachieving. Speaking of which, Oklahoma State 41, Texas 34. Quinn Ewers in his last 2 games is only 36 of 75 for 6.5 yards per attempt against Iowa State, who's a good defense but has nothing on offense, so they'll give you back the ball a lot. And Oklahoma State, who we've chronicled, has really kind of been disappointing on defense this year. 2 games in a row. Are we kind of we both like yours? Were we a little too bullish on him?
I don't know. I do kind of feel like, and this is the same thing, kind of ties into the whole to the whole Texas thing, because again, how many times have we seen Texas going into the half with a lead? They had a lead, and it was a smaller lead this time, only I think 7 or 11. I can't remember which one it was, but they had a smaller lead in this game. How many times have we seen them go into the second half with a lead and blow that lead, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
reason they're doing that is because they're not making adjustments at the half. The other team is making adjustments. They're not, right? Quentin Ewers looked pretty good in the first half and then looked really bad in the second half, right? So, and again, you got Archie Manning coming. So, I mean, Florida quarterback Quentin Ewers. Let's see. Let's see what
That's
happens next
twice
year.
you've mentioned that. Okay, we'll see.
Did I put him to Florida last week? Last week I
You
think I did.
did,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Florida would
You're up.
be.
Don't give this shy like, oh, did I do that again? Yes, we're onto your plot here, pal.
Yeah.
I can't blame you though.
No, it'd be good. I mean that they need something. They don't need. For some reason, Anthony Richardson is appearing on NFL draft boards. I don't know why. Like maybe he has to go to the NFL. I don't know, but I
Maybe
don't
as
know
like a
why
kick
he's.
returner. I don't know.
Like he should return. I don't know if he. Like, Florida's gonna be like, oh no, you're gonna go to the NFL. Oh, we'll miss you so much.
Mm. Let me pack your bags. Okay. Stanford 15, Arizona State 14. I want to take you to a different world where Stanford doesn't give up that stupid last minute touchdown to Oregon State. This would be their resume. They would be 4-3 on a 3-game winning streak, giving up just 17 per game over those 3 games. And their only losses would be to USC, Washington, and Oregon. That would be like the resume of a sneaky good team like you have to watch out for. Are we
Hmm.
going to say they just stink because they gave up a kind of a fluky touchdown?
Well, I mean, they could still make a bowl game, which is definitely an improvement from last year.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, Stanford is such a weird team because their quarterback is also getting NFL buzz too. Tanner
McKee.
McKee. Yeah, they have UCLA next, or actually, sorry, this week. Then they got Washington State. Wow, it doesn't get much easier. Jesus. Then you got Washington State, Utah, Cal, and BYU. So it's not particularly fun. Um, why is BYU their rivalry game? It's not.
It goes to the whole USC hosting Notre Dame.
I thought Utah was against. I thought the Holy War was BYU versus Utah.
It
I thought that was
is.
their rivalry game. I don't
There
know.
it is. Just whoever isn't hosting Notre Dame on Thanksgiving between USC and Stanford is always scrambling to fill that spot.
Okay, that makes sense. Then okay, then I have to flip. Okay, they have to flip it the other way. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I mean, not great. You do have 3 wins. You need 7 to get to a bowl. Maybe Cal, BYU definitely potential wins, but you need another 2. You got to win 2
Yeah.
of UCLA, Washington State, and Utah.
Can they beat one of the big two, do you think?
I'm a little iffy on this Utah team, to be honest.
Yeah. Their
But
defense didn't look great against USC
they're
or
at
UCLA.
they're at Utah though, which is concerning. They do host Washington State. They do have to travel to UCLA, which is I think relatively close to them. So maybe they could. I don't know that UCLA team. Now I don't know. I really liked UCLA last week, but now I don't really like UCLA after what Oregon did to them. So we'll see. But
Yeah.
they could make a bowl. Not
I
not
think I
killing that out
think
of
the
it.
good gauge is Washington State. If they can beat
Yeah.
them, that'll kind of prove them that they belong in a bowl. Okay, in the American Conference, East Carolina 34, UCF 13. John Rice Plumlee throws 3 interceptions. UCF is just an impossible team to get a handle on. I see them as the American Conference version of your Gators. We just don't know what's going to go on.
Yeah, it's such a crazy random sense of what we're gonna get each week on that team. Their quarterback is not good. I mean, like it's a definite downgrade from Dylan Gabriel last year. Um, I don't trust this guy at all. I don't particularly think this UCF quarterback is good. East Carolina is like sneakily good too, so um, watch out for them. But yeah, it's his UCF team just has some like again they crushed SMU a couple weeks ago. Then they lose to East Carolina. It's just such a weird year for them as well.
Yeah. I'm going to run through a few other G5 games here. And this, if you have anything after these, just let me know. Marshall 26, James Madison 12. James Madison quarterback Todd Centeio was out. His replacement basically has this guy heading straight to the bum list if he gets enough attempts to qualify. JMU's lost 2 in a row. Boise State 19, Arizona State or Air Force 14. Boise wins this one on defense. They might be the most complete G5 team now that they have an actual offensive coordinator. Their defense is one of the best in all of G5. Kent State 33, Akron 27. Bring this up because it looks like there's some signs of life in the Akron passing game, which is one of those things I keep an eye on when you have a new coach first year. Kent State's defense is terrible, but you like to see some signs of life on the head coach's side of the ball in year one. And lastly, Western Michigan 16, Miami, Ohio 10. Um, my guy Jack Sapalek, who we had on the bum list, actually didn't start. Just so emblematic of being on the bum list, I couldn't see despite heavy searches, whether he was injured or just benched. His replacement, a guy named Trayson Bourget or Bourget, was 16 of 33 for 123 yards. So showing why he was not able to win the starting job ahead of our guy, Jack Sapolek. Anything on any of those games?
I kind of do want to hit on Akron actually. So this team is
Okay.
like kind of a covering machine. They keep
They are.
covering. Yeah, they cover these massive spreads.
Yep.
And again, this week it's 8.5. Again, I've already grabbed that. And like every week they cover a big spread and almost win the game, but then they don't win the game. And it's really frustrating because you're like, oh man, I could have had that 5-1 money line, but they just blew that like, 'cause again, like this spread here, 33-27. Akron was 19.5 point underdogs.
Yeah.
I got them at that, and I got the money line at 6-1. And Akron could have won this game. And
Hmm.
it's like it's so sad because like, oh, me fine, whatever. You cover a spread, cool. I win money, that's fine. But like, could have had 6-1, right? So you're every time like Akron, it's like it's so sad. Like you couldn't give me the 6-1 money line, Akron. Like you just refuse to win games. You can't close these games out, can you? But no, I mean, still on them this week. They here's like eventually they will win a game.
Yes.
It's just not yet. But like they keep covering massive spreads, so I'm happy to keep betting on them.
Likewise. Yeah, my model likes them for some reason. That this is kind of the time of the year when you're going to get like your Akron, who's just a bottom feeder in one loss. That's sneakily not so bad that the model's going to say play him. All right. Lastly, I don't know if you saw a replay of this play. I did not. I'm just going to read you the play from the play-by-play description in ESPN. Tell me if you can figure out what happened on this play. I got a description later, but this is just awesome. So this is a Florida Atlantic after scoring a touchdown. Quote, PAT kick attempt blocked by Amawule, recovered by Shelton at the UTEP 48. Keep that in mind at the UTEP 48, okay? Returned 52 yards to the Florida Atlantic 0. Defensive PAT successful. Score nullified by penalty, confirmed after review. Penalty UTEP. Unsportsmanlike conduct on Amawule enforced half the distance of the goal. 1 yard for the UTEP 3 to the UTEP 2. No play. Replay the down. Any idea what happened?
So I did see the replay.
Okay.
This replay was kind of crazy, but yeah, it's such a crazy description of what happened. So the guy he blocked the PAT. I believe it went off his helmet, if I'm not mistaken. And then because it was off his helmet, you're not allowed to be part of the play because you can't be tackled if you don't have a helmet. So he went after the ball. Now he kind of it's not really his fault because he kind of tried to get out of the play, but he went after the ball at first and he realized, oh shoot, I have a helmet on. I don't have a helmet on, so he ran off. But then they nullified it, and then because of that, when they scooped up and scored it, they had to nullify the play. So then but like, man, just a crazy play. Just so like again, this is something. It's such a crazy description on the ESPN app. It's just it's great.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I'm really upset that I haven't seen it. Have another time to YouTube it and look at it, but I got to see that one.
Sicko's committee has all that stuff. If you do, they have that. They have the four safety game in the four safety D2 game. It's great stuff.
Yeah, Sickos is a definite must follow.
Hmm.
Nothing on market intelligence this week. Only one BBMI, and this is more based on first impressions. You probably don't agree with me. I thought that Ole Miss giving only 3 at Texas A&M was just a miss by the market. I think that's my instinct. My model actually has A&M a small favorite in this game. Don't know what your thoughts are. I didn't check what your model has on this one.
Um, Let me see.
To your point, though, I mean that just kind of speaks to yeah, Ole Miss is kind of fraudy.
I do actually have Ole Miss favored, but that's just because I think my model hates Texas A&M more. Uh, like I don't I again Ole Miss is really fraudulent, but like Texas A&M is bad. So
Yeah,
I think fraudulent beats bad. I think that's how that works.
yeah. What do they say? Maybe their thing in Oxford should be hotty toddy, good God, all fraudy.
I guess. Well,
Yeah,
this is like 2 straight years now where like the second they play anybody good, they just instantly get crushed. So
yeah. My top QB plus list. Just one note: Drake May now number 4. I don't think we've mentioned him before. The freshman quarterback at North Carolina. My gosh, if that team had any defense, they'd be just awesome. But not happening this season.
they're our only hope to stop Clemson from getting into the CFP. So
Yep. No movement on the bum list this week. They are who they are at this point, I guess. My top receivers. Couple of notes on this. So first of all, the new name towards the top 13th is Tez Johnson for Troy. Troy actually had a big win over my Jaguars of South Alabama. That's a tough one for me to take. Also bringing up two guys, number 14 and number 16, Isaiah Winstead and CJ Johnson, pardon me, both of East Carolina. Interesting to see, um, ECU team that's been kind of under the radar and kind of all over the place at the same time have two guys in the top 16. So I've never been sold on their quarterback either, Ayers. But interesting, they've got two guys in the top 16. Also, a couple of weeks ago, I highlighted the entrance of my top receivers, Rome Odunze from Washington, and saw a little back and forth with, I think it was RJ Young on Twitter, where he had his top receivers. And I'm guessing Rome Odunze's father said very nicely, "Hey, with respect, how's my son not on this list?" So I just jumped in and said, "Hey, I saw your son weeks ago. Don't listen to these idiot national guys. They're lazy. They don't look at numbers. Listen to our pod." So if he's listening, Mr. Odunze, welcome. And we hope you're a lifetime listener.
Hmm.
Okay, USC update. USC had an off week. What's interesting is a lot of numbers have kind of aged nicely in the off week. Caleb Williams, 13th in QB plus, up from 16th last week. 139 QB plus is very, very good. The offense actually moved up to fifth in the country with a rating of 11.5. I think that big game they had at Stanford at the beginning of the season is aging nicely. Like I said, Stanford's had a really completely unexpected nice run of defensive efforts here, 3 games in a row. The wide receivers, Addison and Williams, fell to 18th and 22nd in the wide receiver ratings as they had the week off. The defense is still about 50th in the country. Good news, Eric Gentry, probably their most important member of the front seven, aside from Tui Pelotu, is day to day. He looked like he had a serious injury in Utah. Good news that it looks like he will hopefully be back soon. With UCLA's loss in Eugene, USC is now, I have them ranked first in the Pac 12, and I have them ninth in all of FBS, which is, I think, about one of the high points for the season. Looking forward to this week. I think this is where I rely on you. Keep me honest on the numbers. Last I saw, USC was giving 15.5 at Arizona.
It is still 15.5. Yeah.
Okay. I gotta say, I nailed my preseason pod on the originating the lines. I nailed them. I had this one as minus 15 in the preseason pod.
That's really
Um,
good.
I know my USC. Apparently, I don't know my wins and losses so well, but at least I know my USC. Um, Looking at Arizona, they are very offensive oriented. They have a plus 3.5 offensive rating. Jaden Delora, pretty good QB plus of 114. Very good considering where they were last year. Their problem is defense. I have them with a rating of negative 10.5, which is fourth worst in all of FBS. Johnny Nansen, their defensive coordinator, before the season, I said, I don't like this hire. He was a crummy position coach, and he's not ready to be a defensive coordinator. He's gotten a couple of Narduzzi's this season, and he is, I think, the limiting factor on what this team's going to be until they get rid of him. My model has this game USC 47, Arizona 31. This is very much in line with USC giving 15.5 and the 77 total. Not playing this one. I think USC wins easy. The total of Arizona 31 seems a bit high to me, but they're at home, and I guess it could happen.
Yeah, I've got 42-32, so similar.
Interesting. Wow, you've
Yeah.
got them in the 30s. Yeah, that USC defense is very, very obliging, I guess, at times.
Yeah, and that's to their fault. That's not a that's definitely hurt them this year. The thing of it is, I think betting the spread is like a bet on Arizona being decent on offense, which they actually are. I think the better way to play this is probably something along the lines of, and again, I have to see what the line is. Like you could go Jaden Delora over passing TDs. You could do Caleb Williams over two and a
Yeah.
half is obligatory. He generally cashes that. Maybe you get that at about even. It's too early in the week for that. Usually that comes out about Thursday, Friday. So that's something I'm gonna keep an eye on. But yeah, like this I actually do like this Arizona team. But the thing of it is with a spread like that, like I've got a 10, I think you've got it 16, so that's
Yeah.
not a not a lot of room there in terms of like if you're gonna bet a 15 and a half, you want that to be like I have them 21 points favored. You don't want like I have them like exactly this favored, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, different ways you could attack that game though. Definitely you could bet that game different ways if you want to watch it.
Yep. Okay, and the future bets. You have an audio gift for me?
Yes, I do. Here we go.
Okay, we have the upbeat music, and we'll get to that in a second. Unfortunately, a little bad news. Georgia Southern, the under 5 wins, that ticket loses. That was a double hit. They actually beat my Monarchs of Old Dominion. That would have been a huge win for Old Dominion. Um, Especially hurts to say this. Clay Helton beat me when he doesn't really beat anybody, but I'm on that list of ignominious losers. Better news, Northern Illinois, the song that we're listening to right now. Under 9 wins cashes. That was easy. They were the luckiest team by far last season. Knew this was coming. I actually have them better this season than last season. I think also their hokey fight song lyrics, if you just look those up, probably don't help the cause.
Actually, it's funny because I was playing to the first part of it. The first part was instrumental, but like when you're saying that, like they started saying the lyrics, so
Oh.
they heard. I had to go back because it was distracting, but like they actually heard the first part of the lyrics, the most like the cringiest part of the lyrics. So it's
Yeah.
good. So
Yep. But thank you, Huskies. We appreciate it. All the good folks in DeKalb, Illinois. Now that you got this behind you, better luck rest of the way. And next season, you've got your huge regressing to the mean behind you. Um, Club hot seat. No secret. We had mentioned Will Healy before. He had snuck into Club hot seat. He actually, obviously, has left through the service entrance. And we just want to mention he gave up my play of the year when UTEP converted on a 2nd and 30 with about a minute left in the first half of UTEP at Charlotte. 2nd and 30 conversion. Never seen it before. Watched a lot of football in my life. I don't think I'll see it again before I'm underground.
yeah, 2nd and 30 is it's definitely hard to cover, but you never know.
You never know. Okay. Do you have an Narduzzi or two or three?
Yeah, I'm gonna give mine to Dan Lemming of Florida, or not Florida, Dan Lemming of Oregon. Sorry. Yeah, no. Again, this is actually the second time I've given one to Oregon, but honestly, the game plan they executed there against UCLA was just amazing. Like no, literally no. Like again, this is very similar. This is now two times them against BYU and against thing where again I've actually watched a lot of these games. Their game plans have been absolutely amazing. They've known exactly how to attack the other team, exactly how to shut them down. The thing is like you've got like Bo Nix dropping beautiful passes, teardrop passes to guys completely wide open, and the cherry on top, probably the reason why I'm giving this Unarduzzi to Dan Lemming is because of the onside kick in the second quarter. So again, for those who didn't watch the game early on was pretty back and forth. I think they both opened up with a field goal each. Again, both these teams are fairly well matched offensively. Oregon went down the field, got a touchdown. I believe UCLA also went down the field and got a touchdown. Then Oregon went down the field, got another touchdown. But then and then I watched this game, I'm like, oh man, they're going to keep going back and forth, scoring touchdowns. Great game. Oregon then went for an onside kick, recovered. Again, when you do a surprise onside kick, generally you recover it sometimes. Again, Scott Frost, take notes. And then, well, I mean, you're unemployed now, so you could take notes from your
Yes.
couch at home. But this is the thing, like that is when you do an onside kick. When it's like this game is going to go back and forth, like not we're up two scores, we're going to put the game away. This is if this game is going to go back and forth, and like here's the thing: if we're going to kick the ball to them and they're going to score a touchdown anyway, why
Yeah.
does it matter if we give it to them on the 20 or our 40? It doesn't matter, right?
Yep.
If we can recover the ball, we can go up two scores, and then we can actually like put pressure on them and maybe put this game away. Just absolutely brilliant game plan. The perfect moment to go for an onside kick. Just completely brilliant. No notes at well. No, yeah, no no me notes or no suggestions on my side. No suggestions on my side. Like no notes to Dan Lemming. Just an amazing job, just bringing this Oregon team back into the CFP and the Pac-12 conversation again. Just phenomenal work this week. Good job.
I agree. Congratulations to future Auburn head coach Dan Lanning. Uh, I've got two. Both of them unsuspected, but that's kind of how we roll here. Andy Avalos, Boise State 3-0 now. Since he made that gutsy decision to fire his offensive coordinator, bring in, which we kind of, I don't know if we laughed, but we raised an eyebrow when he brought in Dirk Cutter as his offensive coordinator for the rest of this season. It's worked out. They are a very good team, and they beat Air Force. They're winning with offense and defense, whatever it takes. The other one is Mike McIntyre. Totally forgotten guy. Did a great job at San Jose State. Say this out loud now, and you kind of won't believe. I guess if you talk to somebody who's just maybe a freshman at a certain Pac-12 school, Mike McIntyre brought Colorado to the Pac-12 title game, kids. It actually happened not so long ago, just in 2016. For some reason, they fired him. He has landed at Florida Atlantic. They are now 3-4. They beat Charlotte. He will be the last coach that Will Healy faces as the head coach at Charlotte. Took them from 1-11 last season to 3-4 already. Florida International might actually make a bowl game. It's not impossible. That's not a great conference that they play in. I love Conference USA, but there's nobody that you look at besides maybe UTSA and say, can't win that one. FIU Panthers might be bowling in year one of the Mike McIntyre era.
Yeah, this is
I didn't
this.
see this happen at all, and I'm a fan of the guy.
No, yeah, this Florida International team is not bad at all. Surprisingly, just completely out of the blue, not bad at all. So yeah, shout out to Florida Atlantic. No, yeah,
International.
international. Yeah.
Yep. All right. The G5 New Year's Bowl bid rankings. Just sticking to the eligible one-loss teams, we're down to 3, with UCF and South Alabama both losing. I've got Coastal Carolina third. I still have the Sun Belt as the best G5 conference by a couple points, which is not insignificant. Let's see if Coastal wins out. What happens? I don't think that we're going to get anything from the first CFP rankings because I don't think they'll include Coastal. Curious to see.
Coastal lost a game.
They lost one. Yeah, they're still
Yeah.
eligible though. If I'm saying the one lost team,
Oh
they
yeah.
lost to a very good Monarchs team though. I can forgive that. Ollie
Yes.
Jennings.
Our Monarchs. Yeah.
Yes.
No. Yeah. So Coastal is an interesting team. 6-1. We have them over, I believe, 8.5 on the season. So definitely well within that. Only need to win 3 of the last 5 for that, and they've got games against Virginia, Southern Miss, App State, Marshall, and James Madison. So they can win
James
3 of those
Madison.
probably. So
James Madison's not the same without Todd Centeo, so that I don't know how long he'll be out. That might be kind of easy pickings.
that's the last game of the season though, so he might be back
Yep.
there. So, but yeah,
Yep.
um,
Number 2, I've got Cincinnati. I think, Cincinnati I've got rated a little higher, but I just think that Tulane, it just kind of seems like their year. I think Tulane's a little more balanced too. I think they're better on both sides of the ball than Cincinnati. Though Cincinnati does have a dominant defense, Tulane is a little more balanced. Cincinnati and Tulane play in the last game of the regular season, so you could have one of the situations where they're playing back to back. It's looking very, very possible. Let me ask you this: can you see either team sweeping both ends of that back to back if that's how it goes? That's a big ask. These are two
interesting.
pretty good teams.
Yeah, I think if one is going to do it, it'd be Cincinnati. I think we saw this last year. Didn't we see this last year with Houston, Cincinnati? Didn't they play back to? There's been a couple recently where there's been like back to back.
Yeah, we had it with Fresno State and Boise, and both teams just kind of didn't care in the last regular game of the season. But a game of the regular season. What's different here, though, is there's a New Year's Six bowl bid definitely on the line. Both these teams have one loss. Can both teams get up? I don't believe in the Cincinnati quarterback. He's got a great offensive line in front of him, and he kind of is meh. I don't like his ability to beat the Tulane defense twice in a row.
That's fair.
I
Yeah.
think you're looking at I think most likely scenario would probably be a split between those two. And then we're looking at, this is my question. Can Boise play their way out of club hot seat into this bowl bid? They've only lost 2 games. Is that horrible loss at UTEP a disqualifier? Does the committee even care? They lost by 17 to
As
UTEP.
17-point favorites is an inverse spread.
Yeah.
Um, no, yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure. I think it's possible because if UTEP is also making a bowl, then maybe that doesn't look as bad, right? So
Yeah, they got to be rooting for UTEP, right?
yeah, they're Miners fans. So
Honorary members of the UTEP football podcast.
yeah, for sure. Um,
So welcome Boise, and surprisingly welcome me to the Boise bandwagon. I kind of like this story.
Yeah, I'm not hating this either. I kind of do like this. This Boise team has been fun the last couple of weeks. Ever since losing to UTEP, that was like a horrible loss to UTEP. But again, that was like what 3 weeks ago. Like again, it's like an eternity in college football. It's like oh that happened so long ago. When was it? September. Like it was like 4 weeks ago. So yeah, just crazy change in the season. So
Yep.
okay, that does it for us for part one. Join us again in part two. We're gonna give our Narduzzi awards for the week. Always fun with those. We're gonna do our deeper dives and our official podcast plays for the week.